try and get some reassurance from those who are most concerned, including myself. There's widespread public concern on this issue, and I raised some of the matters earlier with the Minister in the Chamber. What measures are the Department considering or putting in place to ensure that animal welfare is a priority and that all mitigations and measures will be in place to safeguard that animal welfare, and what monitoring of that will be done by DAERA, and is planning for that already in place? And then if it is in place, can we be furnished with some detail of those monitoring frameworks?
I can come in there again, Neil, if you want. There's sort of three different, or there seem to be three different parts there to the question, really. I suppose the first question is the model or the methodology we would intend to apply. And as you're aware, it's largely following the model applied in England. There is an annual monitoring report on the cull programme in England, and in the most recent monitoring report, both the CBO and Natural England's head scientist have endorsed the programme and are satisfied that the welfare of the badgers is being protected as far as is possible. The second component of it, I suppose, is the training of the people who are actually carrying this work out. And referring back to my previous answer, before any cull company would be approved, they would have to demonstrate, amongst other things, that they had both the capacity and the capability to carry it out as we would want it carried out. And in order to demonstrate the capability, we will be expecting to see that they have provided their shooters with training from an approved training company, and that only the shooters who have been trained and certified are used in the cull. And then the third component of it is once the company is up and active, the monitoring of the culling. And while we've no firm plans have been made as yet, obviously pending the ministerial announcement, we would be anticipating a process whereby we would monitor individual culling events. So a percentage of cull events out in the country would be observed by department auditors and monitors to ensure that it was being carried out in compliance with the rules that we will set for culling. And we may also, as a final point, I suppose, we may also would be carrying out a degree of post-mortem examination in any event to assess the impact that the cull is having on TB. And we may also be able to use that post-mortem surveillance to check on the efficacy of the shooting.
Chair, I'll thank the rest. I'll ask for clarification that and I think it was referred to there will be monitoring of what's being done on the ground, as it were, on an ongoing basis by the department to ensure that operations comply with animal welfare standards as set down by the department, and that was the specifics of my question. So if we can give reassurance that will be monitored on an ongoing basis, then I can take that away from this meeting. But secondly and separately, and this is my final question, was any consideration, even in the latter stages of preparation for today's statement by the Minister and the presentation to this committee, given to the recent report published by the Vet Record publication, which concluded that there was no evidence whatsoever that badger culling in England had any meaningful impact on incidents of bovine TB?
Again, Neil, if you like, I presume that the paper you're referring to is the paper produced by Langton et al. And as you said, it was published in the Veterinary Record. And you're absolutely correct. The authors of that paper did conclude that badger culling could make no meaningful contribution to the control of TB, and that moreover, any association that had been observed in England between TB levels and culling was just that. It was an observation. It wasn't evidence. However, both the Langton paper and previous similar work do have to be interpreted carefully because they are essentially observational in nature. They look at something which has happened and they look at the level of TB in cattle and they infer one from the other, which is not always the case. The findings of the Langton paper are in more or less direct opposition to a number of previous pieces of research which DEFRA have relied upon for their culling programme. And DEFRA themselves have expressed considerable concern about what they perceive to be flaws in the methodology in the Langton paper. And to give you an example of some of the flaws that they perceive, One of the issues that DEFRA have identified is that in Langton, he has included in the non-cull area the areas are immediately around a cull. Now, we know from previous research that immediately around a cull, you also do see a fall in incidence, so that is likely to skew the results. And the other thing that Langton did is he included the impact of culling from day one. And again, from previous research, we know that culling will not impact cattle disease until probably 2 to 3 years after commencement. It isn't intended to do that. So you have two diametrically opposed views there. You have DEFRA's view of the Langton paper and the Langton paper itself. There has been other publications and comments since Langton came out by, I suppose, what you might describe as honest brokers. And the conclusions that Professor Torgerson and others have arrived at is that this work needs to be considered. It's a significant piece of work, but it needs to be considered in the round along with other previous work. And in fact, the British Veterinary Association have now taken a similar position that although they note the Langton findings, they want to take them away and have a closer look at them. And I suppose the final comment is AFA across the water, who monitor the cull programme, are themselves carrying out much more detailed research on its impact now that culling has been up and running in a number of areas for a number of years in England, and there is a lot more data available.
Thank you.
Okay.